if you're going to step in that ring with me, you're not doing it because you think I'm going to beat you. You're doing it because you think you're going to beat my ass. So I'm going to turn around and return the favor. No disrespect to him, but at the end of the day, a fight's a fight. So I think he's going to feel more pressure, more power than he's felt before. We're going to see what happens.
This video is powered by Skullbonia. Visit skullbonia.com, honoring the history of bare knuckle through high-quality apparel. We're going to meet the big man himself, Mr. Josh Burns. Mr. Josh Burns, what's up, my man?
What's going on, brother? You good?
Hey, man, we are doing incredible. Like I was saying, huge card coming up in just a week. Before we get to your fight next week, man, and we kind of touched on it just a second before we went live here. You've done you're not new to bare knuckle, right? You did the Bellator thing. You're in BKB. Why now? Like, why the transition to BKFC? What has kind of brought you to this point?
Well, last almost 4 years, I've been fighting BKB in Europe, and wanted to be one of the first American. Well, I was the first American heavyweight to get on the scene. I saw that it was picking up momentum and traction, and I've always wanted to fight for Dave. Before Dave even got started a few years back, the reason I went to BKB is because they had a little bit of a slower start. I got locked into a contract at BKB and took my talents there. Got my feet wet in the industry, and it's always good to come back home and fight stateside. I mean, this is the real big market. This is the big show. So that's an honor to be back.
Yeah, it really feels like obviously it's been over, in the UK for a while, and people, I guess, can argue whether bare knuckle really has ever left. It's been in the underground for a long time, but really it's starting to pick up in the mainstream and really in the combat sports mainstream world, especially with BKFC, with Valor, and then a couple other ones that are really on the rise. But I guess, man, what made you switch to bare knuckle in the first place?
To be honest with you, I mean, if you watch any of my MMA fights, I mean, I've fought, a lot of top tier guys, and I'm more of a stand-up guy. I mean, I wrestled in college, and, I can grapple, but nobody wants to see that. People want to see people bang. And when you get in there with heavyweights and you can actually bang, they immediately turn to ties, clenches. They want to go to the ground. They don't want to stand. So this just seemed, my boxing coach just said, this is a natural transition for me because they're going to have to stand and bang. And, BKFC actually really favors it because it allows the inside clinching. It allows you to dirty box more. And, it's just right up my alley.
Scott Farley says, great addition to the BKFC. And I 100% agree with Mr. Scott over there. So it's the Hammer versus the Hillbilly Hammer.
Right.
Sam Shewmaker. Interesting. It's interesting. Interesting names for this fight, man. Hammer versus Hammer. I've known Sam for a while. I've been covering him for a while. Why this fight? Why Sam Shewmaker? Was there anybody else really, in line for this, or was it just this is what they offered you? It is what it is.
I've known Dave for a while, and he just goes, he asked me, he says, do you have a problem fighting anyone? He goes, do you have anybody in mind? And for me, I want to fight the top guys they have. I want to get back up to the top. I was at the top over in BKB and overseas. So for me, there's a little bit of, it's not bad blood with Sam, but, that definitely have some initiative to want to fight him. Just he thought Eric Prendo was pretty much a brother to me, and it can happen. We're heavyweights, one punch get in today, and that's what happened. So, definitely wanting to get in there and have a little fun and bring a little back for Prendo. And, he's actually fought a few of my boys. He fought Maurice Jackson, who's knocked him down a few times. He fought my boy Kinsey Morrison, and Kinsey actually kind of really beat him up pretty good with gloves on about 6 months ago. So it's just logical thing. That's who Dave threw at me, and immediately as soon as he threw his name out there, I was, hell yeah, let's get that going. Two big bangers, and we'll put a show on.
So I mean, would you say it's I guess you're saying maybe a little personal? Would you say
Absolutely. I mean every fight's going to be personal. I mean, he's going to step in that ring because he thinks he can beat me. So that's always personal. If you're going to step in that ring with me, you're not doing it because you think I'm going to beat you. You're doing it because you think you're going to beat my ass. So I'm going to turn around and return the favor. And I know for a fact, I mean, I know everybody. Kenzie's probably the only guy close to stylistically that I am. And I watched what Kenzie did to him with 10-ounce gloves. So no disrespect to him, but at the end of the day, the fight's a fight. So I think he's going to feel more pressure, more power than he's felt before. We're going to see what happens.
And we were also touching on, with the announcement of Mark Godbeer signing on to BKFC, with you being the addition to the heavyweight division. I tell you what, man, I'm excited. The division's getting deeper. You guys are two huge names for this. Where do you see? I guess what do you want to do with this? Like, what do you want to do with the heavyweight division? Where do you want to be? 6 months down the road in BKFC.
But I definitely want to be. I mean, 6 months down the road, definitely want to be in title contention. I think taking Sam out in impressive fashion is going to do that. Mark and I are actually good friends. He's a hell of a fighter, and it'd be an honor, to share the ring with him. I honestly, in my opinion, I don't know Joey personally, but I've seen him fight. I think that favors Mark in that fight. I think Mark takes it pretty easily, and I would like to be the next guy, if not the second guy, to join Mark in the cage or the ring and see how that goes. I mean, that anybody's game, but we're both big punchers, we're both pressure fighters. It'd be a hell of a fight for all the fans, and Mark and I got nothing but respect for each other, but we're both going to try to kill each other.
It's interesting because we were talking about it and how this title fight coming up in April with him and Joey. It's interesting, right? Because not only is it a huge fight in itself, right? Joey Beltran, Mark Godbeer. It's a huge fight anywhere, right? But you got, he's the BKB heavyweight champion. He's the current Valor heavyweight champion. Beltran is the BKFC heavyweight champion. He's also the Police Gazette world heavyweight champion. So essentially, this is the unofficial, undisputed heavyweight champion. Somebody's gonna, even though Mark's belts obviously aren't on the line, but this is he said something in an interview I did with him today. He said that in his mind, if he loses this, it's essentially like he's losing the other belts too. This is really for all the marbles. I mean, I think the heavyweight division in bare knuckle, I think it's about to blow up with y'all's fight next weekend, with this fight coming up. Some really exciting stuff on the horizon, man. So you're saying, let's just say, let's play matchmaker here. You get through Shewmaker, he gets through Beltran. You'd fight your buddy hands down.
Oh, hands down, because it's nothing but respect. And, we've talked about this many times. We might be crossing knuckles at some point. And until that time, hey, we're going to be boys up to the point. We're going to bang it out in the cage and then be boys, buy them a pint when we get out. So as we say, the winner buys the beer.
There you go. So how long has it been in the works for you to I know you said you've been talking to Fulmer for a while, but I mean, when did you know for sure you're going to be on this card in Wichita, which is also historical in itself? It's the first, legally sanctioned bare knuckle card, full card. They had a bare knuckle fight a few months ago, but the first full card in Kansas, I mean, that's history in itself. I mean, how special is that to you?
No, it's amazing. It's awesome. And it's nice to be back on the big show where we actually have a governing body. That's probably the big thing that the BKB's downside is, that they do not have a governing body overseeing their fights. It's still kind of Wild West over there. They kind of call their own shots, do their own things. And here, it's actually regulated. You have a commission and a governing body over the top of you. So that's always a great comfort, to know that it's done professionally from beginning to end. So absolutely.
Would you like to see, because they're talking about in May, they're talking about having like a, I don't know the exact extent of it, but they're talking about having like a commission meeting in May in Kansas, possibly setting like a standard, maybe even like a standard that other states can follow for bare knuckle, and possibly see more states start to implement it. Because right now, it's just a handful right now. But I mean, do you think that bare knuckle is eventually going to be as widely accepted as MMA is today? You think
I absolutely, yeah, no, I absolutely do. And I believe regulations is where it starts. So once we can get a standardized regulation across the board for every state to follow that they can agree upon, just like the Nevada Athletic Commission, they pretty much are the bears, the gold mark for everyone to follow. Same ideology for, bare knuckle. Once we do that, and UFC's tough. A lot of my boys are fighting in UFC, but it's watered down. I mean, now it's not that it's not a great deal to get on the UFC, but I mean, I see guys that, getting on the UFC just because, hey, now they're fillers or this and that. So, it's still with the bare knuckle fights, you still select few. And trust me, I've seen the top tier fighters get in there. This is a whole different style of fighting because even with MMA gloves, you get hit, you really don't feel it. I mean, you got to really get cracked to feel it. With bare knuckle, I mean, the first jab, you feel it. No matter the endorphins, the adrenaline, you feel the very first punch. And then it becomes a heart check. How much you really want this? How much do you want that payday? How much do you really want to stand there and take this punishment? Because I would say probably 80% of these fights end in cuts. Every fight, I mean, I'm 8-3, and all 8 of my wins, I've come out with black eyes, cuts, like regardless. Even if I've knocked a guy out in the first round, the first minute and a half, it's still, I get banged up. So this is a true, gut check sport. It's not just talk. You got to actually show up and fight. So I think it's going to definitely, Dave Feldman says, when you hear that sound right there, it's not something you hear. Granted, you got elbows in MMA, but not many people throw them. And when they do, they're not as crisp. I mean, this, no matter what, everything you throw is this. So, people are going to turn in for that.
With you stepping into the BKFC ring, there's a slight different rule set than from BKB and even Valor, in that half clinch, the half plum clinch is allowed, and you can hold on and
absolutely
uppercut away, and then the 2-minute rounds. I mean, do you think is that advantageous to you? Like, do you think that gives you an advantage?
I mean, in my opinion, yeah, basic physics. I mean, if you're a tall, long guy, you want to stay outside and fight. I fought for the world title in London, lost to Mickey Terrell, probably the toughest guy I've ever fought. Not the hardest puncher, but the most technical, fast-footed guy, and he just peppered me from outside, moving around. They allow you to get inside. You start within a foot from one another. You're going to have to bang. And the ties, I mean, I'm shorter arms, so I'm an inside pressure fighter. It 100% favors my style of fighting. My opinion, it favors my style of fighting. These tall, long guys, for them to get that power, I mean, look what Sam did to Eric. I mean, as he says, his baseball throw that he incorporates in that big right hand, well, you're going to have to be outside to wind that bad boy up to get it. So, but again, if he gets that, I welcome that punch because, I love Eric, but I'm not Eric. So go ahead and hit me. We'll see what happens. So.
How does it go down next Saturday between you and Sam?
My opinion is it's going to be a high-paced fight. I believe I'm either getting to get him to quit, knock him out, or if he goes all 5 rounds, God bless him. But it's going to be a hard 5 rounds for him.
All right, my man, Josh the Hammer Burns. Check him out against Sam Shewmaker next weekend, BKFC 11. It's going to be in Wichita, Kansas. For those of you who are local, go check it out. It's also on Fight TV and pay-per-view. Don't miss it. Battle of the Big Man, Hammer versus Hammer, is what I like to call this. And Mr. Burns, we appreciate your time, my man. I know it's short notice, and like I said, we just appreciate you so much, and wish you all the best of luck.
All right, bro. Appreciate it, man. Later.
Right. Have a good one.
You too.